Amazon is the origin of natural rubber trees that grow in the Amazon wilderness. Rubber is one of the most essential natural resources in the industrial manufacturing, making the modern world that we know today possible. There are several sources of natural rubber globally, for example, Congo rubber in Congo, Africa, and also dandelion flower. However, the most prized of all natural rubber sources is Brazilian rubber, grown wild in the Amazon rainforest. Let's take a journey into the Amazon history and how rubber makes the hinterland of Brazil so rich in the mid-19th century and how it loses it all to British Malaya in the early 20th century. Rubber is known by the indigenous American long before the arrival of the European. Several different types of natural rubber existed in the wild globally. For example, Congo rubber, which harvested deep in the Congo jungle in the middle of Africa. And also there are natural rubber harvested from Sapo de la tree, which commonly used as a chewing gum in the form of chichel. Maybe you heard of the brand Chichelet if you are old enough. However, the most common rubber tree that the whole world knows is a species called Hevea brasiliensis, which existed initially grown wild in the Amazon rainforest. Before 19th century, natural rubber is just a kind of a curiosity material with little practical use. Indigenous Amazonians use natural rubber as a waterproofing material for boots and shoes and their bags, and also some of the Central American and also people in the modern day Mexico traditionally use rubber as a material to make a ball in sacred ball games. However, the issue with the natural rubber is that the latex rubber is sticky when it's hot and brittle and hard when it's cold, and such. That is why latex rubber has little practical use before the coming of the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century. In the year 1839, an American inventor named Charles Goodyear found a way to strengthen the rubber in the method of vulcanization. He found that accidentally, vulcanization is a process where the rubber and the sulfur mix together under intense heat, making rubber much more durable and also maintain its properties, elastic, rubbery stuff. But with the groundbreaking invention, Goodyear died penniless when another British inventor claimed the similar pattern, making Goodyear earned nothing from the invention. Maybe you ask why there are company names Goodyear tires today. Goodyear tires actually founded by American businessman Frank Sibling 40 years after Goodyear's death, and just used the namesake to found out tires after his groundbreaking invention. Vulcanization makes rubber much more valuable in Industrial Revolution, and such, rubber becoming an essential material to make tires, bicycle tires, rubber hose for water transport, electric insulator to cover copper wires to transport electricity, and most importantly, in the beginning of the 20th century, car tires. According to Randolph Resor, the export of rubber from Brazil increased exponentially from 388 tons in the year 1840 up to 2,700 tons in the year 1860. And such rubber trees were hunted all across Amazon for its natural latex. Thus, this is the beginning of the Amazon rubber boom. Between 15th and 19th century, Amazon was largely ignored by conquistadors and colonials because there is no gold, no silver, and no significant number of indigenous people who can be enslaved or to be converted into Christianity because of the sparse population in the Amazon rainforest. When the rubber boom started in the mid-19th century, people from the coastal Brazil migrated inland to harvest the rubber and also to trade rubber in the major towns, and rubber was harvested in the wild jungle. It is such a dangerous job, and it is a labor intensive because someone need to walk into jungle and find the rubber tree, and then a group of people coming follow afterwards and then start to harvest the rubber, and then someone maybe similar group need to transport the rubber all the way to the river and then sold it into the merchant in the major towns alongside the Amazon river. With the advance of technology, with the steamships sail along the Amazon river from the coastal port of Belém in the state of Pará in the delta of Amazon river up to the capital city of Amazon state, Manaus. It took about 8 days. Compared with the 4 months of sailing inland, such steamships makes rubber export possible because steamship doesn't need wind to sail across. And at the same time, where the demand of rubber start to spring up to make industrial products, combined with the high demand in Europe and also in America with the limited supply of rubber, caused the rubber price at that time is really high and lucrative to hunt upon. Income from the rubber caused the major towns sprang up deep in the Amazon jungle, especially the capital city of Amazon state, Manaus, developed exponentially, and also the coastal port, which is the city of Belém. With the richness of the rubber income, the city of Belém built this magnificent theatre called Teatro de la Paz in the year 1869, and also the riverside market called Mercado Vero Peso in Belém, which makes from the prefab iron specifically ordered from England. Imagine how much is the cost at that time. Not wanting to lose, the city of Manaus, the capital of Amazon state, also built an opulent and elegantly designed theatre in the middle of the jungle called Teatro Amazonas, completed in 1896, and also a brand new market called Mercado Municipal, which is a building made from iron brought from Paris, a similar material that been used to build an Eiffel Tower. And such the richness from the rubber makes the ornate buildings possible, jungle cleared for the wide avenues, and also trams, the modernity at the time, and also electricity, a luxury in the 19th century in the middle of the jungle. Since there were lack of anything plunderable before the rubber boom in the Amazon, the border within the Amazon rainforest hinterland is actually kind of obscure and often disputed between South American countries, especially with Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, and Colombia and Venezuela. And such, there are some people who are entering the wrong territory to hunt the rubber inland of Amazon river, and in this case more and more Brazilian come from Amazon state entered Acre, which is at that time in the 19th century was part of the Bolivian sovereignty, and is confirmed with the Treaty of Ayacucho in the year 1867, which confirmed by Brazil that Acre at that time is under Bolivian control. To make a complicated story simple, almost all population in the region of Acre is Brazilian, and in the year 1899, Luis Galvez Rodriguez de Avias rebelled against Bolivia after the news broke out that Bolivia will privatize the rubber industry to the American corporates. Fear something similar happened in Bolivia, like what happened in the banana republics of Central America, where private companies control the government. And such, the rebellion broke out, and Acre tried to gain its independence and tried also to join Brazil. However, the crisis solved peacefully by the Barão de Rio Branco with the signing of Treaty of Petropolis in 17th of November 1903, where Bolivia gave Acre to Brazil, and as a compensation, Bolivia gets a brand new railway line from Guajará-Mirim to Portobello to export the Bolivian rubber. However, the wild nature of a rubber harvest in the Amazon rainforest caused the inconsistent supply of rubber, especially to the British Empire, makes Britain at that time want to find a way to guarantee the rubber supply to fit the demand of an increasingly profitable business. In the year 1876, with some of the monetary incentive, Henry Wickham, which at that time a consul in Belem, smuggled 70,000 rubber seeds to Kew Gardens, London somehow, because at that time there were no prohibition or ban on exporting rubber seed, but the action is probably very likely unethical. But since Henry Wickham is a consul, so probably there will be some diplomatic immunity discussions such to be here, but that is another story. The reason why Britain want to have the rubber seeds is because the British at the time tried to plant rubber in the plantation to stabilize and increase the production, and also want to gain easier access compared with the rubber harvest in the wilderness. From the 70,000 rubber seeds that have been brought to Kew Gardens, London, only 2,700 rubber seeds were germinated, actually more than enough to start a rubber plantation elsewhere. And from the 1,000 of rubber, most of them are sent to Ceylon, which is today Sri Lanka, and only 22 of the little rubber trees were sent to Singapore Botanical Garden. Director of Botanical Garden at that time, Henry Lickener Smith, an English botanist, kept a deep interest in promoting the rubber tree in the British Malaya. He has a deep understanding of a local Malay trees and flora surrounding the British Malaya, and thus he wants to promote rubber as a main cash crop, replacing coffee at that time. Thus his nickname, Mad Ridley. Initially, rubber plantation did not kick up as Mad Ridley wanted, because the rubber tree need to be harvested after 7 years, which is not really profitable. In the year 1895, he found a way to harvest rubber from the rubber tree using the herringbone method, like this, which maximized the rubber production, at the same time minimizing tree damage, which means that the skin can be healed and the rubber can be harvested again and again as long as the tree is still alive. As a result, rubber plantations sprang up throughout British Malaya, together with the development of the railway lines and also with the ports along the western coast of Malaya. Lack of natural pests combined with the lack of natural predators makes rubber tree thrive in the tropical Malaya, and by 1902 there are 240,000 acres of land in Malaya planted with rubber, which makes Malaya the largest producer of rubber by the turn of 20th century. And not forget, the riches from the rubber tree is enough to finance some of the opulent project in Malaya. For example, this building and this building, which is still stand today. There is a legend of a lost city of gold deep in the Amazon rainforest. However, in the turn of 20th century, with the decline of the rubber price, Manaus became the city of lost gold, because rubber is gold no more. There are several factors how the rubber price plummeted in the turn of 20th century. Number one, Asian rubber was cheaper to produce, especially in the British Malaya and also in Sri Lanka, compared with the labor-intensive rubber harvesting while in the Amazon. The second reason is that British Malaya developed the good network of railway lines and ports, thus reducing the transport cost to export rubber to Europe and America. Compare that with the expensive cost of transportation by dirt road in the Amazon, and also cargo transfer from the Amazon riverbank to the floating port of Manaus, which is cost 38 cents per case. 38 cents is similar cost of transport from New York to Australia at that time, and 38 cents also happened to the same cost for this part and also this part. The third factor of the decline of the rubber price is because of the tax rebate and incentive by British Empire at that time to encourage rubber plantation. In comparison, Brazil government imposed the export duty of any rubber exported to Europe and America, and also imposed the import duty of all the food and luxuries coming into the Amazon. Thus, Amazonian rubber is more expensive than the rubber from British Malaya and also from Ceylon. Since rubber plantation has a much more efficient way to harvest rubber compared with hunting rubber in the wild, some attempts of rubber plantation in Brazil try to and or eventually fail due to South American leaf blight, which caused diseases to rubber trees and caused rubber trees to die. According to Agonokome Onopise, I hope I spell your name right, wild rubber trees survive in the Amazon jungle due to protection by the heterogeneous vegetation, creating a barrier from fungus spores that cause the blight, which means that the rubber trees in the wild protected by the surrounding plants, but not in the rubber plantation. There are slight relief of the rubber price when the World War I sparks up, prompted the price of rubber increased a little due to demand to make military trucks and aircraft tires. But after the peace treaty, the Treaty of Versailles, rubber price fell further and further due to oversupply from Asia. Rubber price fell down from $3.80 per pound in April 1910 to only 14 cents per pound in June 1921. 14 cents, which is a lot. And because of the drastic reduction of the price of rubber export is no longer lucrative, and less people hunted rubber in the jungle, not worthing the risk and the time. And such, Manaus start to lose its luxuries that financed by all the rubber riches. The electricity supply in Manaus stopped, the tram service dwindled and eventually stopped in the middle 1950, and the opulent and grandiose opera house in the middle of the jungle were closed doors, and it remained that way until it was reopened in the 1980s. As mentioned earlier, there was some attempts to create a rubber plantation in Brazil. For example, in Pará, in the year 1927, there was an attempt by Henry Ford himself to create a rubber plantation in South America to secure the rubber supply, not wanting to buy from British anymore, which is called Fortlandia. With the issue of the three diseases, I mean the blight, the issue of transportation issues, only the rivers have a different levels of height, which cause problem with the steamboats and also the modern diesel boats. The issue with the mutinous labor when the Brazilian forced to eat in the cafeteria style instead of sit down lunch style, which is against the Brazilian custom, call for the failure of Fortlandia. And apart from the oversupply of the natural rubber, during the World War II, some of the countries, especially United States and also Nazi Germany, start to produce its own synthetic rubber made from petroleum oil to replace the supply of natural rubber. Because at the time, the largest producer of rubber, which is Malaya, is under Japan occupation, which means like the American and also the British and all the allies are cut off from the rubber supply. But after World War II ended in 1945, the rubber industry in Amazon, Brazil ceased to exist because of the price of the rubber fell further and further. Today, rubber is no longer significant in Amazon economy, but the new ways of development of Amazon need to find out in alternative of rubber. In the 1960s, the free trade industrial areas had started to open up in Manaus to attract investment, especially from the manufacturing industry because Manaus has a cheap labor at that time because of high level of unemployment and close to natural resources, especially wood and also water supply, such the incentive for the free trade area. And today Manaus is still the capital city of Amazon state, or in Portuguese called as Amazonas, and it is the largest city in interior Brazil, which is away from the coastal area, with the 1.8 million people live there. Actually, population of Manaus is larger than population of the capital city of Brazil, Brasilia. In replacement of rubber, nowadays Amazon is largely supplemented by the soybean industry, cattle farming industry, timber production, and also some manufacturing, especially in the larger cities. But the soybean plantation and cattle ranching destroy Amazon rainforest at alarming rate. Thus, let's recall back to the importance of the economic sustainability as the rubber hunting was in the 19th century.